Right then, Forest faithful. Something massive is brewing at the City Ground, and I'm not talking about the usual Trent End atmosphere. We've got 5 stories that'll have you questioning everything you thought you knew about this season. Stories that stretch from Brazil to Manchester, from international debuts to transfer earthquakes that could reshape our entire squad. Picture this. One of our lads has just made his England senior debut, and Thomas Tuchel can't stop raving about him. Another one of our defenders is causing a right stir across Europe. We're talking Barcelona and Arsenal circling like vultures. Then there's the Brazilian connection that's got everyone talking. A goalkeeper situation that's more complicated than you think. And whispers about January business that could blow your mind. But here's what's got me proper excited. Each of these stories tells us something different about where this club is heading. Are we building something special, or are we just a stepping stone for bigger things? That's the question that's been eating at me all week. Now, before we dive deep into this madness, I need to ask you something, and be honest with me in the comments. Do you think Forest are finally ready to compete with the big boys, or are we still punching above our weight? Because what I'm about to tell you might change your mind completely. Hit that like button if you're ready for some proper revelations, and make sure you comment your thoughts as we go through each story. Trust me, you'll want to have your say on every single one of these. The first story involves a lad who's just lit up Villa Park in an England shirt, and a German boss who's already planning his World Cup squad around him. Ready? Let's get into it. He's been the heartbeat of our midfield since arriving from Newcastle. But what happened at Villa Park on Friday night was something else entirely. I'm talking about Elliot Anderson, and his England senior debut against Andorra has sent shockwaves through the football world. Thomas Tuchel handed him a start in the World Cup qualifier, and the lad didn't just take his chance, he absolutely grabbed it with both hands. 90 minutes of pure class, man of the match performance, and England fans are already saying he looked a level above Declan Rice. Let that sink in for a moment. Tuchel's words after the match tell you everything. Very, very good. He was nervous at the beginning of the training week, but then he did good and we said, let's try it. He showed he can become a very good player. That was the test, and I think he passed the test. But here's the kicker. The England boss is already talking about Serbia, about the World Cup, about building the team around players like Anderson. This isn't just a one-off cap to keep him happy. This is Tuchel seeing something special and wanting to build his entire midfield philosophy around it. Reece James, who's been around the England setup for years, couldn't believe what he was seeing. He is a phenomenal player. He fully deserves to be here, and he showed that with his performance today. I've played against him, and I can see what he can do in the Premier League, the toughest league in the world. I thought his call-up would come sooner. Think about what James is saying there. He's faced Anderson in Premier League matches, seen him up close, and he's questioning why it took this long for the call-up to come. That's a player recognizing genuine quality when he sees it. Anderson nearly capped off his debut with a goal too. Only a brilliant save from the Andorra keeper denied him. Can you imagine? Debut goal for England, man of the match, and Tuchel planning the World Cup around you. That's the stuff dreams are made of. But here's what really gets me excited about this. Anderson's rise tells us something massive about Forest's recruitment. We've gone from a club fighting relegation to a club developing England internationals. That's not luck. That's proper planning and development. The question is, how long can we keep hold of him? When you've got Thomas Tuchel publicly praising your midfielder and planning his World Cup squad around him, you know the big clubs are watching. What do you think? Is Anderson already too good for Forest, or is this exactly the kind of player we need to build our future around? Drop your thoughts below, because what comes next will test that theory even further. If you thought Anderson's situation was complicated, wait until you hear what's happening with our defensive rock at the back. Murillo, the Brazilian center-back who's been an absolute colossus since joining us, is now officially on Barcelona's radar. And we're not talking about idle speculation here. We're talking about serious, concrete interest from one of the biggest clubs in world football. According to reports coming out of Spain, Barca are closely monitoring the situation and have already gathered detailed information about potential transfer fees. They're not just window shopping. They're doing their homework, building their files, preparing for what could be a massive January or summer move. But Barcelona aren't alone in this. Arsenal, yes, Arsenal are also among the leading admirers of our Brazilian defender. Two of the biggest clubs in Europe are circling our player like sharks sensing blood in the water. Here's what makes this even more significant. Murillo only signed a new contract with us in January. The lad committed his future to Forest when he could have easily looked elsewhere. That shows loyalty, that shows belief in the project. But it also shows how rapidly his stock has risen since then. The Spanish media are calling his reputation on the rise. And when Barcelona start making lists of centre-backs they want to target, you know you've got something special on your hands. They're putting him alongside Crystal Palace's Marc Guehi and Sporting Lisbon's Goncalo Inacio. That's the level we're talking about here. What does this tell us about Forest development? We're no longer just buying players from bigger clubs. We're developing players that bigger clubs want to buy from us. That's a complete transformation in how we're viewed in the football world. Murillo's performances have been nothing short of exceptional. He's got the pace to deal with Premier League forwards, the composure on the ball that modern centre-backs need, and the defensive instincts that you simply can't teach. Barcelona don't just want good players. They want players who fit their specific style, their philosophy. But here's the million-pound question. What does this mean for Forest? Do we cash in when the big offers come? Or do we fight tooth and nail to keep our best players? Because losing Murillo would be like losing the foundation of our entire defensive structure. The January transfer window is only months away. Barcelona are planning, Arsenal are watching, and Murillo's agent is probably fielding calls every single day. This isn't going away. It's only going to intensify. The fact that Murillo signed that new deal in January gives us some protection. But when clubs like Barcelona come calling with silly money, player heads can be turned pretty quickly. Just ask any club that's tried to keep hold of their best players when the Spanish giants come knocking. Do you think we should cash in and reinvest? Or is Murillo the kind of player you build a team around? Because what I'm about to tell you next shows we might not have a choice in these matters. Sometimes football gives you stories that sound too good to be true. And this next one is exactly that kind of tale. Meet Jair, the Brazilian defender who's gone from Botafogo's Club World Cup hero to Forest's newest signing to Brazil U20 starman, all in the space of 8 months. If that doesn't give you goosebumps about our recruitment team, nothing will. Let me paint you the picture of how mental this journey has been. Back in June, Jair was facing down Kylian Mbappe and the Paris Saint-Germain superstars in the Club World Cup. Botafogo won 1-0, and this lad was one of the standout performers against some of the most expensive players on the planet. Fast forward to July and we've signed him. Not Real Madrid, not Manchester City, not any of the usual suspects. Nottingham Forest. We spotted the talent, we made the move, and we got our man before the big boys even knew what was happening. Now he's with Brazil's U20 squad preparing for the World Cup in that age group. And he's telling everyone how that Club World Cup experience is going to help him on the biggest stage. With certainty, it was a very positive experience where I could make good games for Botafogo. I believe this experience can help a lot because of the context of the competition. But here's what really gets me about Jair's story. His attitude towards joining Forest. My adaptation is being very good. All the athletes receive me very well. I'm still having a bit of difficulty with the language, but it's normal and I'll gradually pick it up. I'm happy to be there. Think about that for a second. This is a lad who was playing against PSG superstars just months ago, and he's genuinely excited to be at Forest. He's not treating us as a stepping stone. He's treating us as his next chapter, his chance to develop and grow. The Brazil U20 coach Ramon Menezes has him in the squad for the World Cup preparations, training alongside the best young players in Brazilian football. That's the level we're talking about here. When Brazil are calling up your defender for international duty, you know you've signed something special. What makes this even more impressive is how quickly he's adapted. Moving from Brazil to England, different language, different culture, different style of football, and he's embracing every minute of it. That mental strength, that adaptability, those are the qualities that separate good players from great players. Here's the thing that really excites me about Jair. He represents everything Forest are trying to become. We're not just buying established Premier League players anymore. We're identifying world-class talent before it becomes world-class expensive. That's smart recruitment. That's forward thinking. The Club World Cup experience he's talking about isn't just beneficial for Brazil U20s. It's beneficial for us. We got a defender who's already faced the pressure of the biggest stage, who's already proven he can handle elite level football when it matters most. But this also raises questions about our long-term planning. If Jair continues developing at this rate, if he becomes a regular for Brazil's senior team, how long before the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona come calling? We might have the next big Brazilian center-back on our books. Is this the kind of signing that shows Forest's ambition, or does it highlight how difficult it'll be to keep our best talent? Because the next story shows we're already dealing with that exact problem. Alright, let's talk about something that might not grab headlines but tells you everything about where we are as a club right now. Angus Gunn, our summer signing, experienced goalkeeper, Scotland international, and he's currently third choice at the City ground. Third choice. Let that sink in for a moment. Gunn was eager to get back between the sticks when Scotland faced Denmark in World Cup qualifying on Friday night. Not because he loves playing for his country, though he obviously does, but because he's barely kicked a ball for Forest since joining us on a free transfer. Here's how mental our goalkeeping situation has become. Matt Sells is our number one, fair enough. But we then signed John Victor on deadline day, and Victor got named in our Europa League squad, while Gunn was left out completely. Our summer signing with international experience omitted from European competition. Gunn's last game before Friday was back in June, a friendly against Iceland, where he got injured after just 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Then he joins Forest expecting regular football, and he's watching from the sidelines while newer signings get chances ahead of him. But here's what I respect about Gunn's approach. He's not moaning, he's not demanding transfers. He's using his international opportunities to prove a point. Against Denmark, he kept a clean sheet, helped Scotland earn a crucial point, and showed exactly what he can do when given the chance. Obviously, it's been a while since I last played, so I was eager to get back on the pitch. Getting the result we got and not conceding goals was a great joy. I didn't find it too difficult. Obviously, I've been through this before, which helps me a lot. That's the response of a professional who knows his worth. He's 20 old. 29 years old. He's played in the Premier League. He's a Scotland regular, and he's prepared to bide his time. But for how long? The Europa League squad decision tells us everything about where Forest see Gunn in the pecking order. Victor, who we signed on deadline day, gets included while our experienced summer signing gets overlooked. That's not an accident. That's a clear indication of how Nuno rates his goalkeeping options. What makes this situation even more interesting is what it says about our recruitment strategy. We're signing players with international experience and Premier League pedigree, but we're also making ruthless decisions about who fits our system and who doesn't. Gunn keeping a clean sheet for Scotland against Denmark, a team that had most of the possession and created the better chances. That's exactly the kind of performance that reminds everyone what he's capable of. The question is whether Forest are paying attention. Here's the thing about goalkeepers. They need regular games to stay sharp, to maintain confidence, to feel valued. Gunn's at an age where he can't afford to spend a season on the bench. If this situation continues, January might bring some difficult decisions. But maybe that's exactly what Forest are banking on. Maybe they see Gunn as experienced cover, someone who can step in when needed but isn't necessarily part of the long-term plan. That would be harsh, but it would also be smart business. The Scotland performance shows Gunn hasn't lost anything during his time on the sidelines. Clean sheet, solid handling, good distribution, everything you want from your goalkeeper. The question is whether Forest value that experience or whether they're already moving in a different direction. Do you think Gunn deserves more chances? Or is this just the reality of modern football where even experienced international players have to fight for their place? Because what's coming next shows just how competitive things are getting at every level. Think the summer transfer window was mental. Think we're done with big signings and tactical masterstrokes. Think again. Forest are already plotting January moves, and the name on everyone's lips is Nico O'Reilly. Manchester City's versatile young star who Pep Guardiola can't stop praising. O'Reilly isn't just any City Academy graduate. This is a 20-year-old who broke through last season, impressed Pep enough to get first-team opportunities, and is now being tracked by clubs across Europe. Forest are among them, and we're not messing about. Here's what makes O'Reilly special. He's predominantly a midfielder, but he can also play left back. That versatility, that tactical flexibility, that's exactly what modern football demands, and it's exactly what Nuno loves in his players. Pep Pep's assessment tells you everything. He's an attacking midfielder. When you play him as a fullback and the game is quick with transitions, he can arrive. When you go left, right, right, left with a lot of passes, you give him time to arrive there, and as an attacking midfielder, he's always there. When Pep Guardiola, arguably the best tactical mind in world football, is singing your praises like that, you know you've got something special, and Forest want him. But we're not alone in this chase. Bayer Leverkusen, Lyon, Leeds United, Brighton, everyone's circling. O'Reilly's contract runs until 2028, so